Alright, you guys, I have a rulebook now. I won't make any more mistakes, okay? Hey everybody, this is Kodak here, and welcome back to some more Bakugan Battle Planet. This time, we are going to be looking at a 5-pack. This is a set of 5 Bakugan, 2 Ultra, 3 Regular, for $30. So theoretically, based on the pretty high prices that the current ones have, this is like a $41 value for 30 bucks. It also obviously comes with the 5 character cards and 5 ability cards, which makes it a little bit better than the regular basics, which do not come with ability cards. So, gonna take a look at this today. This is actually a pretty big, hefty box. You can see the Dragonoid Destroyer I have over here, and the Bakugan Classic carry case I have over here. This thing is actually pretty large, and the fact that it's a box means that you can sort of open and close it. I'm noticing some interesting features of the packaging, like this here is sort of a cutout that allows them to repurpose this section here for various universal ways. Now, as you can see here, we have 5 Bakugan. One of them is in Glorious Chaos, of course. That's going to be our Chaos Serpenteze. We're also going to have Ventus Howlkor. Those are 2 Bakugan that I have not talked about yet. So the fact that I held off on those turned out to pay off, because now I can talk about them and this larger set here. You can see it says Chaos Serpenteze, Ventus Howlkor. Those are our 2 Bakugan Ultras, and it has the pictures of Chaos Serpenteze and Ventus Howlkor down there. I don't think Serpenteze has appeared in the show yet, even with all the episodes that they have introduced. There's a lot of stuff that hasn't shown up in the show. So it says Battle Brawlers here, although I assume Battle Brawlers is like the name of the trading card game, seeing as that it's called the Battle Brawlers Starter Pack. This is the Bakugan Battle Pack. It also comes with the 10 Bakukors that correspond with the 5 Bakugan inside. Now, in classic Bakugan fashion, the 3 remaining Bakugan are still all curled up. We have what is obviously Aurelus Nilius right here. We've already dealt with Nilius twice, so it is very easy to make him out thanks to his double heads here. This one that looks kind of chunky, I'm not 100% sure, but I think that's going to be a Pyrus Hydorous. So we're going to actually have a lot of fun with that one. And down here, this one truly is a mystery to me. I'm not entirely sure. I mean, it's obviously darkest based on the black, purple, and green, but I think this might actually be Trox. So, if I'm right, that means that 4 out of these 5 Bakugan are ones I haven't talked about before, and the 5th one is one that I'm already kind of sick of. So, let's get this thing open. Yeah, this is kind of what I mean by the funny packaging here. You see this section with the Ultra Bakugan can just kind of come out, and oh wow, is that actually wow, I thought this was like going to be a molded piece, but no, that's actually a trough in there. So if you wanted to recycle this box and just use this as kind of a dump bin for some of your other Bakugan, that's actually a pretty nice opportunity here. And it looks like the cards in here also have what appear to be a fairly deep tray. So, well, it's at a bit of an odd angle, unfortunately, but maybe if I buff this out a bit, maybe you could stash a few cards in here. I was kind of hoping that it would have a bit of a deeper tray so you could use this as a card stash as well, but I guess if they did that, they wouldn't be able to sell the Baku carry thing, couldn't they? Yet another case of all these cards with tape all over them being left in a vulnerable state. I hate it. Ooh, it's our first Magic Shield and our first Flaming Fist. Exciting. And here's a look at what we get inside the pack. Now, along with our requisite set of rules and checklist, although this one actually comes with 2 checklists because it has 2 Ultra Bakugan in it, we have our set of 5 Bakugan here. We of course have Aurelus Nilius, who I already have open here. We're not really going to look at him because it's Nilius. We've looked at him twice already. He is a 505 damage, which is pretty par for the course for Aurelus. I'm not sure what any of his support might be, but over here, let us start with Serpenteze Ultra. This is Chaos Serpenteze Ultra. It is a 501 that brings in 2 shield, and if it lands on a shield, it gets plus 4 damage. It's essentially a weaker form of the Aurelus Fangzor that we looked at from the triple pack. Up next, we have Howlkor Ultra, Ventus Howlkor Ultra. It is a 502, which, as I said, is fairly medium as far as these sorts of Bakugan are concerned. It comes with a Shield and Fire Fist. Now, Fire Fist is the first new Bakukor that we've never looked at before, and what it is it's basically the green fist, only it tends to have even higher boosts. The same is true of the Magic Shield. They tend to have higher boosts when you use them, and I kind of like how the cores actually work out. It's similar to Battle Claw, and it wouldn't surprise me if they took a look at that game when making it, in that all of these Baku cores are up for grabs when they're all laid out on the field. So it is entirely possible for you to turn these against your opponent, although you have to be certain who owns which one. So I'd say apparently you could, maybe I'll try it out on a duplicate. I'll see if a grease marker works on one of these, if a grease marker can work on these and come off once you're all done with it, or you want to trade it, or you could maybe use like the yard sale stickers that they have. We'll have to take a look at that in a bit. Up next, we have Pyrus Hydorous. I was right, kind of spoiled by the card a little bit there, but yeah, Pyrus Hydorous in that nice lipstick red with the orange and green accents. It is a 403, but it brings in a magic shield and a regular shield. 403 is a little bit under par, but it's on the more aggressive side. Pyrus is the more aggressive setup, so that kind of makes sense. And finally, we have Darkest Trox. Darkest Trox is a 701. Wow, that's a lot of priority going on there, and he brings a shield and a helix. Like I said before, helixes kind of work like your trap cards, so they tend to have very unpredictable effects and probably the most flexibility. So having a character with a helix seems like a good choice for any deck. And of course, we came with 5 ability cards. Sadly, none of these ability cards are rare, and I actually take issue with that. We need the chance to get some rare cards. If we're shelling out $30 for a set of these Bakugan, I'd like to get some rare cards in here. I mean, not only is it more rewarding to get a set that has more rare cards in there, but if people know they're guaranteed to get the rare they want in here, they're more likely to buy it. So it's just a win for everybody. But let's take a look. First, we have 3 action cards. That's what these ability cards are called that don't use that aren't something else. We have Chaotic Darkness, which is for 1 energy, choose a player to discard a card. That's always a powerful ability. Forcing your opponent to discard a card is always really strong. You're essentially trading a card with your opponent, but if you can force them to... It's a rather painful choice to discard in this game, unless it's a flip card, which we'll get into. We have Beaming Blaster, which is 6 energy for 6 extra damage. 6 is basically getting to the threshold of what you're able to play. Domination, though, if your Bakugan holds the most Baku cores, 12 damage instead. However, as you saw with the Meteoric Lance, the Meteoric Lance does plus 11 damage for 5, so there are definitely more cost-effective cards than Beaming Blaster. Not a very good card. And then we have Fire Boost, which is for 2 energy plus 400 B power. That's a pretty good effect going in there. Pyrus actually has a bunch of interesting cards. It actually has a really interesting synergy with Chaos, in that Chaos has an effect called Domination, as you can see on this card here. Domination. If your Bakugan hold the most Baku cores, it does plus 12 instead. So there are a lot of Chaos effects that have the effect Domination, and Pyrus actually has a bunch of cards that kick Baku cores off of your opponent. So they work really nicely together if you're going for Domination, and I just might. I'm thinking of doing a Pyrus, Chaos, and either Aquos or Aurelus deck. So we're going to take a look. And finally, we have these 2 sideways cards. What is this? Chaotic? Well, actually what these are flip cards, and they are the Bakugan's actually kind of lousy equivalent of trigger cards. What they do is, while the game uses a life deck system. I'm not a big fan of life decking, as you might know from before, but what these cards do is, if they hit the discard pile, what they do is you can immediately play their effect, although they're kind of costly when you look at them. First, we have the darkest card, Cease Serenity. What Cease Serenity does is, for 1 energy, that's only when it hits the discard pile, though, you can stop. You have like a little hand with a stop sign there. Stop, Chaos, or Ventus. So basically, you're flipping cards, you're taking damage, then you flip up this one. If you're taking damage from, Serpenteze Ultra here, you can pay 1 and make that damage stop. So this becomes the last card of damage. The other one is Ventus Power. Stop any non-Ventus and draw a card. So that's at a cost of 4, though. It's incredibly expensive to stop damage. So I don't know how many of these flip cards are going to get used. I mean, there are some that are really good. There's Pact of Darkness, which is incredibly strong. You discard a card to stop an attack. That is ridiculously strong. Honestly, I think they kind of misunderstand how trigger cards are supposed to work. They're supposed to be like a fantastic reversal. And trigger cards in other games have always been free. So we'll just have to see how they decide to handle this. So that's a look at the cards. Now let's take a look at the Bakugan, starting with Chaos Serpenteze Ultra. So here we have our Chaos Serpenteze Ultra, and my gosh, that's a lot of protrusions on there. I mean, a lot of people have been saying that it's in order to make them roll straight. If you ask me, I think with Serpenteze, it's the fact that it has this gigantic center rail that allows it to roll more smoothly. A lot of them seem to roll fairly smoothly anyway, but like I said, it's kind of an aesthetics thing for me. When they look like that with those big old ugly bulging parts, they don't really look like marbles the same way one like Milius might look. So yeah, that just seems to be my problem with the Ultras in general. I mean, not all of the Ultras have had the bulges like this, and maybe they do benefit stability, maybe they don't, but again, we're looking at these striking colors here, these striking nice details here that just really come out with the help of the Chaos color scheme. This sort of this sort of light blue just really pops against this this nearly white gray. It's a much lighter white than the old Chaos. The old Chaos had kind of a gray going for just solid gray, even though they looked white in the show. The Bakugan Chaos were white though. Anyway, take a look at this detail here. This actually looks like it's a piece of plastic in the blue color. It's nice to see how well that matches in. The fact that it's not immediately apparent that mixes in. We got some nicely detailed paint jobs. These Ultras tend to look pretty nice in the paint job. I haven't really had much to complain about regarding that. Everything looks nice and sharp. That's just a joy to look at. It's nice and sharp. We got a lot of tiny little detail on here, some little various vents and other things. And we have the front here. Here's the magnet. It's on this kind of flat surface here. A lot of the Ultras have this kind of big solid bar for where the magnet goes, versus the regular Bakugan that have sort of the large Gundalian Invaders circle. And then there's this sort of big old trough here, like the rails. Yeah, these rails kind of go along the whole thing, and that, if you ask me, is what helps it roll more smoothly, these long rails. So it's not as I mean, it's still kind of weird to see that big old gap there, and there's his face in there, but it's not as bad as Maxitor. Maxitor's design, I mean, I love how it looks, but its rolled up form is a bit lacking. But again, those irresistible colors, because, you know, I'm the Chaos boy. I love this color scheme, even with this little pitting and stuff like that. So let's see how it transforms. Well, let me tell you something, Spin Master. These flipping and jumping gimmicks don't seem to be working too well for you right now. Anyway, what did you land on, buddy? Oh, that's too bad. But anyway, at least we have the first ever Bakugan with a working jaw here, at least as far as Battle Planet is concerned.
I will swallow your soul.
Okay, so taking this aside here, we have a look at Serpenteze. Now, Serpenteze is supposed to be like a snake, a giant flying, like a wyvern based on the card. It's like a giant wyvern that doesn't really have any legs to speak of. So it's also fairly large. It's not quite as large as Mantinoid, but it does have a lot of volume. Although I was kind of expecting it to be built a bit more like a lizard man based on how its original artwork looked, and I guess it kind of looks like that. Although now we have these giant wings here that kind of remind me of the one from the final boss of Final Fantasy VII. But moving on, and now we can see that a lot more of this guy is rendered with the blue plastic. I think like all of Pegatrix was rendered in the white, and I think some of Chaos Garganode was the blue. It was just the tail, but this, it's a bit better dispersed throughout the body. I mean, we finally have a piece that's rendered in the sort of rich sky blue on the tail here. I think that was just paint from all the other ones, but it's got a nice springy tail. It's got these legs, which have some nice detail on them, and it has these front wings, which, oddly enough, rather than being white painted blue, are instead blue painted white. So pretty nice start for our Chaos Bakugan right here. We have heck, even the things that hold it in place are in that blue. And here's the magnet. It's actually on its chest, so it theoretically is supposed to jump up and pick up and show the core that it got, kind of like a turning mech card. And speaking of power, there it is right there, 500. Would that be considered the butt? I don't know. It's kind of weird. Snakes are weird when it comes to butts. Although it looks more like he looks more like a praying mantis, like a set of 4 feet, although he has his arms kind of swept back. They're like swept forward. He looked more like a praying mantis. But let's take a closer look at some of this detail. Yeah, get a look at that head. That looks really nice. I mean, it doesn't have the drawn-in pupils like the Chaos Ultra Gorgonoid that wowed me so much. But you can... man, I'm losing my speech over just how gorgeous these Chaos Bakugan are. I'm sorry, you guys, but we got some nice ridges on the neck here. We have some joints. We have some things that are rendered in the teal that is sort of Chaos's secondary color now that they've ditched the yellow. But that's a pretty nicely detailed head there. Now we've gotten the chance to look at. We also have some nice detailing on the rest of the body as well. We can see, like on the legs here, we have some nice, like I said, it's really sharp, a lot of the detail on these Ultras here, that they seem to have detail on here that's a lot sharper than what you see on the core Bakugan, and that's actually really interesting to see. We have, again, our 500B power down on the base of the tail there. I guess it would be like the base of the tail. Another look at that. It's a really nice Bakugan. Like I said, it's Chaos. Maybe I should have saved this one for last. Oof. Let's move on. And here we are taking a look at Howlkor Ultra, the Ventus Howlkor Ultra, and I just have to notice right away, there's dog heads sticking out of this thing. That's just silly looking, and like it said before, it really breaks the sphere. I'm not a big fan of that. It's very clear that the reason that the Ultra Bakugan can roll better is because they're flattened around this central zone here. You can kind of see how that whole area is basically flattened down. That's what allows this thing to roll nicely, not these protrusions sticking out. It's lies, don't believe the hype. Of course, it is the nice, rich, dark green, along with some light green accents and some yellow mixed in as well. It's a kind of pretty nice looking card there too. Pretty nice and sharp looking. We can see some of the detail here. Howlkor doesn't seem to have detail on the depths of things like Pegatrix or Serpenteze. It still has some nice detail that pops fairly nicely thanks to the plastic being used to make it, but let's see how it unfurls. And it's another headstand. Yeah, these that are supposed to like jump in the air haven't been working so great so far, so here we are with Ventus Howlkor. Alright, now that we have our friend unfurled here, let's take a look. This one is also fairly impressive in how much volume it takes up with how much it unfolds. That's probably a result of the fact that they were able to stash the spring in one of its heads. As you can see, it has 3 heads, with the one here and the 2 on the side, sort of the classic alpha hydronoid configuration with the central larger head. So very, very nice start. We also have the nice feet here. We have these feet which are rendered in the plastic. Again, we have a large central yellow hub on which all of the heads attach. The heads have some nice detail to them. A little bit of nice detail on the head with the sort of the skeleton bars here. Remember, this guy's default form is Darkest, although I guess that's because he's supposed to be Cerberus. He's the original dog from Hell. So, or I guess that'd be Hades or something. It still has some pretty sleek look. These kind of look like wings. Does Howlkor have wings in the actual show? I'm not sure, but those, yeah, looking at those are definitely wings. Unless he's supposed to have like 3 tails as well as 3 heads, because there's the main tail right here, which feels a little bit like the one they had for Maxitor. So let's take a closer look at some of this detail. I gotta say, it is nice that all of the heads are at least kind of painted. In fact, the outer heads also have the teeth colored in on the green, although the same cannot be said for the inner head. Also, that eye looks a little bit sloppy. Maybe that's just a defect on mine, but I'm used to these Ultras being fairly nice and high fidelity. Getting a better look at some of the body detail in here. We have the G-Power on the bottom, sort of on his chest on the bottom. It's another 500. Like I said, this just correlates directly to the card, although this allows you to play the basic game, although the basic game also requires the card so you can tell the damage. So why isn't the damage printed on here again? That's still kind of weird. So yeah, Howlkor has some pretty nice volume. It's definitely a lot. It's definitely a worthless Heridian that's been hardened with fire. Although, oh, it's a little uneven on the heads there. Maybe that's an effect of how they fold up. Howlkor's fold up is a bit peculiar. Although I actually didn't fold up Serpenteze either. Serpenteze kind of doubles back in on itself, then shuts the feet, and then the wings just kind of go into place. Very straightforward on Serpenteze. With Howlkor, things are a little bit different. Well, obviously, you first fold down these heads get sort of pulled in by the big head. You're supposed to bring those down, and do these go on pivots? Yeah, no, they just kind of pivot towards each other. This one's just actually kind of weird. So we have the legs, which come up like that. The wings. Oh, no, that's right. The main head has to like recede back here as well. Howlkor is actually a bit of a pain to re-transform. So the heads are actually supposed to kind of poke out above, like we saw before. Then our tail comes in and secures everything, in theory. Oh, it's supposed to hold down the feet. This one is... Howlkor's maybe not the best designed out of all the Bakugan out there. It's a bit of a pain to close, and it's maybe not the most articulate. And of course, we have the gigantic dog heads that are bulging out of there. I don't know. I'm not much of a dog person, to be honest. But, I mean, I guess if you're into Cerberus or the dog design, it's pretty nice. Alright, now let's take a look at some of the basic Bakugan. Starting off here, we have Hydorous. It's usually pretty easy to tell when something inside of a package is a Hydorous because it has these large, very flat shapes, as well as, might be a bit harder to see, but those are kind of the vents on the front. As you can see in its card art, it has like some vents right next to its mane right there to make it kind of look like the old Tigrera, or like a bit more robotic or something. That's what these are supposed to be here. Taking a look, this Bakugan actually doesn't have terribly much intricate detail. It's more about having large, loud, bold colors on each other. And it really emphasizes that by having just huge swatches of it. I kind of like that. Now, this is Hydorous' basic form. We have already gone over how Hydorous looks in its Ultra form, so we will be able to compare those once I get them all transformed here. And here we have our Hydorous. Oh man, all that time I spent praising how the new Bakugan don't need much in the way of transformation. In this one, you have to fold these rear paws down. Anyway, kind of a silly looking little guy, isn't he? He has the big old lion's mane, which is why previously I had compared him to Leoness, because that has sort of the similar appeal. Now, when it comes to actually looking like a lion, this definitely has it a bit more on the nose with this gigantic headpiece there. Although it's got kind of a funny looking little face there. It looks kind of like the cowardly lion. yes. Maybe that's what the Aurelus or Chaos one sounds like. Sounds like the cowardly lion. But this one's a bit more on the goofy side. Then again, the base ones all seem to be a little bit goofy there, especially with how his spine kind of curls up. He looks like an angry cat, you know, and how they like arch their back and everything like that. And the B power is really weirdly placed. It's like, I don't know, it's like you can kind of make it out just kind of barely under there, the 400. It's really, really difficult to make out. So yeah, again, like with Mantanoid, we do have the nice bright orange along with the green that pops nice and strongly against the red. Although in this case, it seems to be a bit more subdued. But again, that's just kind of an effect of being a core Bakugan. But this one is even simpler and even chunkier than how some of the other ones have been. Although it's still a very, very simple Bakugan to transform. Although it kind of uses that sort of serpentine shape that I was kind of hoping that Fangzor would have used. So very, very basic. Let us compare it to our diamond version. Yeah, not really much in the way of comparison, is there? You can see just how much more volume the Ultra version takes up. He also has these much stronger forward arms, although the tail is kind of in a weird place. The tail like comes out of like the stomach or something. So I guess that's something the regular version has going for it, is at least the tail's coming from the right place. But I guess that's just sort of part of the aesthetic of Hydorous, is that it is very basic and simple in its design. It's very chunky, unlike the complexity you get in things like Pegatrix or even Nilius with all of its neck articulation. But one thing that I can say about the chunky design is that it does make it kind of feel like a classic Bakugan. It's not it's a lot chunkier and classic looking, more the kind of thing you would have bought about 10 years ago compared to the complexity of things like Nilius or Pegatrix or anything like that. But I really kind of like that. That seems to be Hydorous' thing, considering that Ultra Hydorous also has those sorts of simple markings on it. Although so far Ultra Hydorous has been the only Ultra Bakugan I've encountered that doesn't suffer from any Alto Brontes disease. So we're gonna see if more of that happens. But anyway, that's a nice look at an example of how the regulars are different from the Ultras. Now, the Mantanoid is also going to get a regular version, as is Serpenteze, as are Dragonoid and Trox. So most of these are going to get an Ultra form that I will be able to compare them against in the coming waves. And here we have Darkest Trox. Trox is the T-Rex, and the Ventus version of Trox is Winton's signature Bakugan. And this is definitely a very aggressive Trox with the high B power, which gives it very high priority along with the Helix. But feeling the material again, I'm starting to think it has less to do with Nilius' design and more to do with the kind of plastic that they used with the Darkest. I don't know why, but I just don't feel satisfied by how this plastic feels. So I'm thinking it's just an issue I have with the Darkest plastic. But taking a quick look at the outside of Trox, there are occasionally some little bursts of detail, like you can see here. It is, of course, mostly purple with a few lime green accents that, again, pop nice and sharply against the black. It's why they're there, to be all nice and attractive. This is the part that was poking out of the box here. This is the tail, so it looks a little bit like Pegatrix, so there might be a small chance that they can be confused if you look just at the tail, but these prominent circles on the edge are what really set it apart as being Trox. So pretty straightforward design looking from the outside. I don't think these might need to be furled out. I don't think they do, but let's take a look at this reverse Barney here. Alright, and here is a look at Darkest Trox. As I figured, there are a couple of little arms for him that fold out, but so far it's been nothing crazy on the various things you need to fold out. It's been on roughly the level of the original Battle Brawlers, which tended to only need a couple of hands or a couple of feet to furl out, if anything needs to furl out at all. So this will actually give us a chance to look at Trox's very, very detailed head sculpt here. Now, Trox, as far as Bakugan go, is very, very compact. So compact that I'm barely able to get all of him in focus with how close I currently have him to the lens. But there is actually a lot of detail going on this guy's face. Although, later we're going to see Trox Ultra, which actually looks a whole lot better than this kind of pudgy guy. He's just kind of a... If you look at the side of his body there, he's basically a little Pac-Man if you take away all that additional detail. That's about how much detail he has. Let's see, where was his B power on here? Was it another one that was like in a weird... Oh, there it is, right there, tucked on the bottom side. B power 700. So yeah, matches the card. They got some nice detail on the eyes. I can see, like they colored it all in. Although these are actually fairly large eyes, so it would be kind of remiss of them to have not put on that kind of detail. Very, very basic, but again, I can't say I'm entirely satisfied by the feel of the plastic. I mean, it's definitely a nice take on the black that gives it both gives it the ability to both show off some highlights and some shades, but it feels, I don't know, a bit sharp. It also, like I said, it's just a small issue on the quality of the plastic on the darkest ones. It's still very nice to see the return of that classic color scheme. They have definitely been working very hard to make sure that all of the colors on these new Bakugan are very sharp and distinct and pop out, and Trox is definitely another good example of that. And that is a look at the Bakugan Battle Pack 5-pack. It's a little disappointing seeing that they've dropped down from 6 to 5, as the classic Battle Packs contained everything that 2 players need in order to play, which might have been nice to have in this case as well, but it still seems to be the most cost-efficient way to obtain the Bakugan. As I said, this is basically $41 in value for $30, and the fact that it comes with some additional cards gives it a little more value, but the fact that those cards are all commons really kind of hurts that viability. So, That's a look at that, and next time we are going to be taking a look at where I found this rulebook. Until next time, this is Kodak signing off.
Bakugan brawl, it's a big brawl. Bakugan brawl is for it all. Bakugan brawl, standing tall, we're the awesome ones. Powers in our hand, take a stand, saving